Welcome to the Big Picture Podcast, where we talk about Hawaii's film industry, its inspirations, its challenges, and the sharing of resources. I'm Brian Wallace, and today we're going to be talking to Tuiaʻana Scanlan. He's the IATSE Local 665 president, and he's the IATSE's International Trustee. And he's also a killer grip. He's worked on things like Hunger Games 2, Godzilla, Jurassic World, Jumanji, The Wrong Missy, Magnum P.I., Lost. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Thank you for coming over here and spending time and talking with me.
I'm honored that you invited me, man. I'm so excited, dude.
Bro, you're one of the most knowledgeable guys to me in our union, in our industry, in our community. I knew you forever, bro. We go way back.
We go way back.
Yeah.
Like this.
Way back, dude. And the reason why I kind of wanted to start talking about this, like being, attending our union meetings and kind of understanding kind of what we've been working for, fighting for, because to be honest, we've been struggling out here.
Yep.
Our industry is a tough industry to make a living in. It's feast or famine. Like, I grew up in the industry, Pops, Dave Wallace, shout out Pops. 40-something years in the union, he just retired, thank God. No, but I lived through like some months where eating steak, where living the life, and then some months is like food stamp. Yep. It's feast or famine. And I've been fortunate since I started 15, 16 years ago to get a great run, like Lost, Hawaii 5-0, yep. Magnum. So I haven't really experienced that. And that's just been a blessing. But moving forward, I think our industry as a whole has taken a hit. We're kind of navigating these new digital ages.
Yep.
And at the same time, Hawaii is taking a hit as far as maybe the support that we're getting to facilitate having a growing industry here.
Yep.
So you're kind of at the front lines of that as the president. You want to kind of, explain kind of the duties of a president of the IATSE union.
Yeah. So there are defined duties, and then there are also implied duties.
Yeah.
And things that somebody's got to do them. And if you're going to be the leader of a local union chapter, then there are things that you just got to do, right? Like, even now, it's still weird to be in front of a microphone and on camera as part of the job, because for so many years it was, if you see a camera pointing at you or a microphone in your face, you're in the wrong place.
Not good.
Right? Get out of the way. That we as grips, like they say, grips and electricians are masters of shadow and masters of light, and that we uplift others into the light and work in the shadows so that they may bask in that light.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, before the era of the cut scene after the credits, nobody stayed for the credits, right? Nobody even bothered.
My dad did.
Yeah.
I had
we do.
Yeah.
Right?
And now I do. I used to be like, what are we doing here? Now I'm like, babe, just wait. We got to watch. I think I know
so you
somebody.
Can see, like, hey, I worked with that guy, right?
Exactly.
Just to, it's the, we were here. Like, we did this, This was not this canned performance. And so I come from the background of theater and poetry and spoken word and stuff, and worked a lot in this venue, in this arena. And, theater is also, and live events, they're also very much so a collaborative event. There's so many people that have a hand in it, but you can see it in real time, right? You see it happening as you're standing in the audience and the laser light show goes up or the pyrotechnics go off or whatever. You can see that there are guitar techs running in to change a string, or a drum tech that's going in to repair the cymbal, right? And film and TV, it's not like that. We see the canned performance. You get the same performance over and over again, no matter how many times you restream the rerun. We may pick up on new things and see new nuance to what we're watching. But live events always changed so significantly between one performance to the next that it felt like, at first, like I was invisible in the game. that I was just there. Like, I'll never forget my first. I worked a lot in rock and roll. I worked a lot in like trade show and events and stuff. And then
because our union does, just to clarify, like our union
does all of the craft.
Blaisdell.
We are a true mixed local, right? So we do live events, trade show and conventions. We cover technicians and artisans and allied crafts in motion picture and television. So you really I had to learn how to be a multifaceted worker, a Swiss Army knife, a Leatherman, if you will. But it felt very invisible, and I'll never forget the first gig where I was reading through the contract, the start paperwork.
Right.
And
you read through that?
Yeah, and then Tommy May like yelled at me. He was like, "Don't read it, just sign it." And I was like, "God, what have I done with my life?" Well, then came up in the game to become eventually, on the executive board, and then vice president, and now president. And so some of the duties of the president are to run meetings, to chair the executive board and the general membership meetings, so that there is an avenue for folks to express concerns or excitement about an initiative that they're taking part in. President, is a co-signer of the local, so all the money that we have to spend, there are like checks and balances for the checks that are issued and signed.
Yeah.
They work in coordination with the Secretary Treasurer. They assign, they have full oversight of committees. So as there are ad hoc committees that are just, hey, we got to do something for the MLK Day parade.
Right.
Let's get people together on that. Plan this. Let's talk about it. And then there's standing committees like the Constitution and Bylaws Committee, the Training Committee, things of that nature. So then it also lends itself to being, if you're the president, the first thing that comes to mind is that you are the forefront, the executive officer of this entity, whatever entity it is. So part of that is being the forward-facing voice of the local and speaking on behalf of the people and fighting for people who work in this industry, whether or not they are members, right? And then another part of it is legislative activism.
Right.
Being at the ledge was absolutely terrifying the first time that I went out there. And then very quickly, like being on set, you get your sea legs and you start realizing the relationship between this camp of people and that camp of people, and why these people are supporting this and those people are opposing it. And going to the sausage factory is wild to see the meat grinder of it, but it's really important to serve the local in that capacity.
So why does our state hate our industry? No. What, in your opinion, what is the view of our union and generally our industry, the film, the television production in Hawaii? Like, do they all hate us?
No.
Are they all like, we don't want that here?
No, they don't all hate us. There are opposing views across a spectrum. There are certainly, I'm sure, people who absolutely cannot stand film and TV or entertainment in general, except when COVID hit, all of a sudden we're stuck at home. And what do they turn to but art? The art that we make, right? Then all of a sudden, art is not a luxury; it is a necessity. It's food, right? It is sustenance.
Why though? Like, why do you think there are some that view our industry, and is it like they don't like our attitude, or like they think we're outside and they think it's Hollywood people coming into our state?
I think that's part of it. That's part of it.
Yeah.
I think one thing is there are misconceptions and other things that I think are blown out of proportion, that are taken to the extreme. Some people see, excuse me, Mr. Microphone, Ms. Microphone. I think some people view the film tax incentive as a blank check that is given to Hollywood execs, that we are just funneling money out of the state. I think some people view that as wasteful, with a lack of oversight. I think some people, with the whole, this industry only ever hires folks from out of town.
Right.
Means like, not only is it leaving the state, but folks are coming here, messing up our backyards, and then leaving with our money.
Right.
Which is absolutely not the case, right?
How much percent of film, let's say like, I don't know, Hawaii Five-0, is local people? Like, is it 30%?
No, I think it's significantly higher. So I did last year, there was an info session with the economic, oh man, I'm going to get smashed for this one, EET committee, Senate EET committee. And I forget what the acronym means, but it's essentially economic development, energy, and tourism. That's what it is, EET. And they had an info session where they invited us to speak about the industry and address some of the concerns about hiring and whatnot. And one of the things in my presentation was showing them, they had asked for, what does the past year's worth of hires look like? And I was like, we don't have 2 months to sit. We have 2 hours. Right. And I've got like 20 minutes to tell you about this. Let's just talk about one day. Thursday, February 20th, 2022. Or 2023. We were looking at the 3 shows that were going. It was Magnum, it was Rescue High Surf, there was one more, NCIS. And I showed them, like, this is the crew list, and these are just cocktail napkin numbers. Based on running through the crew list versus the call sheet, the names that I knew personally, and the names that I knew were actually from here. The crew list is just like the core crew, as you know, right? That's every department head with their second and whoever the core crew is.
Right.
And then the additionals that are then hired on the day's work, the litany of names that are in the back of the call sheet, for anyone who doesn't know out there what a call sheet is.
Yeah.
It means this is the homework for the day. These are the shots we're going to do today. And all the people and all the stuff that's going to be needed. I did a side-by-side comparison. It was something like Rescue High Surf had a 94% local hire rate, and then on their water unit, the other 26 people was 100% local. Yeah. NCIS had like 75% of their core crew were locals. And we're just talking about below the line, the crafts that we represent, not including like actors, directors, any of that, just our crafts. Yeah. Because that's all I could speak to them about the Senate committee. That was like 75% local hire, and then on the day it was like 84% local hire on that one day of work. And then Magnum was going, and it was a similar set of numbers. It was like 79% on the crew list with local hires, and like 86 or 87% local hires on the day of work. Yeah. And that's all one day of work.
Exactly.
And if we want to talk about like how many jobs, like how many people were employed versus how many jobs were created as a result of this industry.
Yeah.
That's another month's worth of presentations that we could break down each individual day versus the week versus the month versus the year, right?
Because they always just give you like 20 minutes to make your case, you know what I mean? And that's why I feel like having these conversations where it's like long form and we can actually get into it and somebody can watch it and be like, oh, thank God they're explaining that it's not people from the mainland, it's actual people here. Like I know, everybody on the crew, a lot of them get to send their kids to private school.
Absolutely.
A lot of them finally get to build a home and buy a house.
Buy a new vehicle.
Exactly.
Right?
And I don't even know how we can compute like all the vendors, local vendors, wherever we're shooting.
Oh my God.
We're buying food.
Broad. Not even just food. Like I remember, what was it? I think it was Kong Skull Island. I was running 3 different sets at a time. So, right, the D-rig, I was rigging grip best boy, which means, like, for those of us at home who don't know what that is, a best boy is like the lieutenant, the key is like the captain. Yeah. You have sergeants, like the dolly grip, that have specialized skill sets, and then your rank and file, your E4s that you just fire and forget, right? Yeah. Sling mud and steel and junk. Where we all start.
Sandbag carrier.
Yeah, exactly. Carry this bit of steel up that mountain. Go. Stop asking. And then, like, I had to de-rig one set, so like take all the stuff out that we built. Yeah. Service the members and the set that was currently being filmed, and then pre-rig the next set that they were going to go to. And then a second unit gets added. So now there are 6 sets that we're running with 24 people, and each day that we're doing this, I'm spending like $8,000 a week on lumber at Hardware Hawaii, spending like $4,000 a week at Royal Metals, spending like $3,000 or $4,000 a week on Plywood Hawaii, maybe every other week. Mm-hmm. There was one set for Hunger Games, bruh. I built We built like a 60-foot run of stairs with a 10,000-pound center load capacity, a motorized zip line with a 16,000-pound center load capacity. We built a 40-foot bridge 3 feet above the water. It took weeks, and it took dozens of people and trucks and equipment. And then the producers came up and they're like, "It's beautiful. We're never going to film here.
We're not
Tear it all
gonna
down." Yeah.
That
It's
happens
your
a lot.
money. That's $250,000 that just got paid out in wages and in materials, mostly in wages and a little bit in rentals and material, you know?
I mean, there's a lot of money. I mean, when we talked about in our last episode, Mauricia, just dollars going, into tourism, dollars going into all sorts of avenues. I mean, this is a lot of money coming in. I mean, I think in 2022 we're talking about like $750 million. So I think I don't know if it's the general public or people at the state level that look at our industry and think it's all outsiders, or it's all Hollywood people with or like think we have some kind of attitude like we're better than. And you know what, maybe in the past there was some of that. I could totally see that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
bit.
But I feel like maybe my generation is kind of the first. I wouldn't say the first, but we're coming up, with pride, with this as a real job, and the people before us struggled so much to make a living in this and grind it out and stick through it, that we're in a position now that we're skilled people that can complete the job.
Yep.
So we actually now are fighting for like we can fill every position. We actually don't need anybody now. Before and again, I'm not hating on these skilled people who came down, because if it wasn't for these people, we would have never learned. We would have never got the experience. And all these people who have been so willing to share their knowledge, how to light a set, how a camera works, all of that. Someone had to teach it.
For sure.
And so, but now I feel like we're getting to a point where we've learned, we've had enough experience, like, hey, we can actually facilitate a production on our own. Do you feel like we're at that skill level?
Yeah. And
are we far from that? Or what?
No, I think, it's like any situation, there are complexities and nuance to it. I think it's important to honor the past and all of those folks from the continent who believed in us, invested in us. Like when, shout out to the Godfather, Eddie Powell, the homie, International Vice President Emeritus, who stood up for us when a situation arose and 665 filled a call when it was Local 80's jurisdiction. And in the long ago, they tried to grieve us, to which Eddie Powell showed up and said, your issue is with the employer, not with them. Why are you hurting your brother, right? There are folks from Local 80 who have come down and showed us. And when rest his soul, Donovan Ahuna and his brother, may he rest in peace, David Ahuna, when Donovan was the business representative for Local 665, his brother was the president of Local 80, the GRIP local. For those of it at home who don't know who Local 80 is, you better know.
Good brothers.
Good brothers. And so they built that bridge and then created a pathway for us to be paid at the same rate as GRIPs on the continent.
Right on.
So they couldn't abuse local labor by paying them less to disincentivize the folks from coming down. Now you could pay them essentially the same thing and share that knowledge. I think also that we are in a unique position of gathering knowledge from outside sources because our industry has been so transient that here comes a key grip that comes down, or a gaffer or whoever, and they say, this is the only way to do things. You do it every time like this. And whoever tells you otherwise is absolutely wrong.
Yeah.
And they're here for 9 months, and then they leave. And then the next guy comes in. Who the hell told you to do it like that? This is the only way you do it. You do it every time like this. And whoever tells you, and lather, rinse, repeat. And over the years, there have been so many different influences of that nature that we've become much more well-rounded than before. And before, I think there was the misconception that we were country bumpkins, that we were just all about it, like beach kind, right?
Yeah.
And though we still hold on to that down-home rootsy vibe.
Yes.
Still, we have acquired a significant...
some departments more than others.
Some departments more
Nah,
than
nah, nah,
others.
nah.
No.
Just joke, just...
All love to all the departments.
Yeah, I love the greens, guys.
But grips and riggers, baby, all day. Because we've had such an extensive palette of experience offered to us,
Yeah.
we have access to, I think, more than others who are in established or have been traditionally established production zones. They work with this key grip all the time. They worked with this key grip their entire life. And so this is the only way they do things.
Yep.
And when they encounter a key grip from elsewhere, there's friction, right? There's difficulty. There's things that are lost in translation. They communicate with each other differently. They cultivate a different type of culture on set. So I think that has aided us a lot.
Yeah, and like speaking on that on another level, I mean, for better or worse, I guess, we're a mix local, meaning I could work as a grip one day, I could work as an electrician one day. And I think the biggest reason, and this is to my understanding, it's that way here in Hawaii because you got to just kind of get a job wherever you can. But having said that, like I work alongside a lot of people. Like I've been fortunate, blessed that I came in as a grip and I've been still on this road of being a grip. You know, that's great. My dad coming up, he had to work props, he had to work electric. But guess what? Like he got a little bit of knowledge of every little department. And so his understanding of how sets operate and films are made, he kind of has a lot of perspective to it. So I think that's a plus, you know what I mean?
Definitely.
And having said that, in the mainland, every department kind of has their own unit. Like we're 65, we have most of the departments. In the mainland, grips are all local 80, right? Electrics are what, 728?
Yes, electric, and then you have props and prop makers, local 44. Hair and makeup is 706, costume 705, script supervisors 491. So there's definitely a separation of duties and a clear delineation between them. And I know, coming up in the game when I was young, God, it feels weird to say that, but I would go from working on Lost with you guys until like 3 a.m. at Police Beach. And then I would jet to the convention center to work as a rigger over there or install and dismantle. And then the next day I would be working on a concert. And then the next day I'd be on a commercial. And then the next day I'd be back on Lost. So like having this well-rounded experience of all the many different facets of our industry, I think can only aid and empower the people who work in it. And I think that well-rounded experience is necessary.
Yeah, definitely. And who's kind of at the front? Is that you at the kind of front lines fighting? Say, is it production studios coming in saying, oh, we have our own crew, we have our own people that we want to hire? Is it you stepping in going, hey, that's great, but we have the same capable people locally? Can you try to use our workforce first?
Yes and no. And I think this is where, like, the key to any type of leadership is relationship building, I think. Because without that, it becomes very adversarial, very transactional. Building the relationships with folks over time organically. Some that are, like, offered in a sort of transactional way that build into a stronger bridge of relationship. Those can't be swept aside, though. But building these relationships and having the call with folks for when they call up and be like, hey, what's the deal? How do we get past this? And I'll offer a couple of solutions. Mostly what I'm doing is, I think, being the forward-facing, the face, like the voice to speak, right? And to advocate in the community and to advocate legislatively. So in the Square building, educating folks to the fact that we're not just film and TV. We do all of these other things that you know and love. And fighting for initiatives and then, debunking certain misconceptions about who we are. I think that's been my main goal recently because we haven't had a strong presence in the Square building for a long time. And that was one of my main priorities when getting into office. Because these are the folks, the movers and shakers, right? These are the ones that write the laws that we then have to follow.
Mm-hmm.
So why wouldn't we be a part of the conversation? Because if you're not at the table, you're on the menu, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, what would you say is the biggest challenge a local filmmaker or someone in our union faces on building a career here in Hawaii? Because when I first started, you know, when I first got started in this industry, I was always told, like, if you ever want to be successful in this industry, you're probably going to have to go to LA. You probably have to work in the mainland at some point. And me being the local boy I am, I'm like, I guess, but I really don't like leave.
Yeah, it's
you
my
know?
home.
But you know, I was pretty fortunate to have enough work here.
Yeah.
And, the future looks kind of scary.
Yeah.
I think, you know, and I'm not talking about Hawaii, it's like generally filmmaking.
Yeah, across the country.
Yeah, across the country. So I don't want to make it all about us. Everyone is struggling, you know, in this industry. But specifically in Hawaii, like, what is, like, would you see as the biggest challenge for us?
I think for workers, the biggest challenge is work availability. I think for filmmakers, part of it is content creation and like fostering and supporting that little ember of creativity into something that people can buy into, that people latch onto and connect to. I think as an industry, there are a couple of things working against us and so those same things that work for us. We are logistically difficult to get to, right?
Yeah.
So if you're bringing a bunch of gear here, it's going to take some time, right? You've got to put it on a container ship. If you're flying it over, it's expensive. You have to source gear that you may not use all the time. If you bring your special gear here to this beautiful, wonderful place, it's going to get salt water and red dirt in it. And it's probably going to... Yeah. This is where gear comes to die sometimes.
People fear bringing their gear here for that reason.
For sure. Getting sand in your slider is not a good idea. And I think from a legislative standpoint, there are folks who see the industry as a waste. There's $50 million that's allotted to our tax credit annually right now. And that as emerging situations occur, they now are looking for places to cut spending so they can pour it into something else, like Lahaina, right? Absolute tragedy.
Yeah.
$4 billion settlement.
Yeah.
The amount of time and energy and effort that it's going to take to rebuild and support that community is significant.
Yeah.
Because of that, the state government, which is mandated to have a balanced budget, then has to reallocate their assets to something that no one was expecting. Because of that, they start looking for programs to cut. Yeah. And all they see at face value is $50 million. Yeah. That's $50 million right now that we can tack onto this. Now, what's the next one we can cut down? Yeah. Without looking at all the benefits. That some people are diehard zealots in thinking that, you know, taxes are just a way to collect money. Taxes aren't for giving money out. When that, I think, is an overly simplified view of things. Like, taxes are the communal kitty we pay into to support our community and support the initiatives that the people want, right? That things that generate state income tax, things that generate high wages and better quality of life, right? And that's what this work does. And I think...
Or how about just keeping the culture alive?
Yeah.
Like, like if you're not putting any money or really looking at keeping your culture alive. And I think we can do a lot of that through filmmaking.
Absolutely.
Through music, through concerts, you know, all the things that we work on, like that's what it's going to. I mean, if you look at New Zealand, like they literally have a budget for their cultural media.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And guess who's pumping out really good shows, really good shows, movies. Why do you think they want to take, you know, a Jason Momoa movie and shoot it over there?
Yeah.
Like a lot of people, they do think it's him. Like they think it's Jason Momoa himself, local boy, going, nah, I'm going to shoot this in New Zealand.
It just doesn't math out. Like it doesn't pencil out.
Right. He wants to shoot it here.
It just, there's archaic language in our film tax incentive law that prevents them from being able to shoot like it's only for a certain number of episodes on a network television show, not for an 8-episode miniseries. Because of that, it doesn't qualify for certain things. And if we shift that, it would make it very easy for him, or easier for that show to be here. But it's not, Jason. It's a multinational corporation like Apple that's saying, hey, we need to make sure that there's a return on investment, right? That we are investing this much money. We want to ensure that we're getting the best bang for our buck. If our film tax incentive is not competitive globally, we are not as attractive as a location as we could be. So now you get Moana shooting 98% of it in Atlanta.
Yeah.
By remaining uncompetitive, we are now losing the ability to tell our own stories. Competitive
in the tax incentive world, right?
Tax incentive world.
Because all these other states have tax incentives,
Yep.
and the big dollar people are just going to look at that and say, hey, I'll just go here.
And very experienced and cooperative, like robust support for their film departments, right? For the film commission or what have you, right? Those states pump assets and allocate funds to empower that film community, that film commission, whomever is at the reins of it. They pump money into there so they can attract more business. They see the return on investment from a mile out, right?
So that the states are doing that. The states are saying, hey, you know what? This is actually a good investment. Let's put some money into it. And so you talked about that. Who kind of is in the state level, like you talked about the film commission. Who are these? Who are the umbrella that kind of controls what happens or facilitates things in the state from the state perspective?
So ultimately the budget is created by the state legislature.
Okay.
Right? Senate and House, bills back and forth. There is a legislative calendar that you can download from capital.hawaii.gov. Also, for anyone that wants to participate in the conversation, you should register an account on capital.hawaii.gov. It is free. You can track all the bills that affect your daily life. They then, in that budget, there are fights for, like we are very passionate about our industry.
Yeah.
As is everyone who's fighting for their industry 100%. As well.
100%.
And though we can make the case that we are generating so many more dollars than we are investing in, we are still not top dog in the state as far as industries. Mm-hmm. Even though we touch just about every other industry that's around here.
Right.
And there are battles that happen, right? And those battles then turn out to be what the budget is then given to the governor to sign. The governor has their priorities. They then send down as like memos to like governor's messages for appointments to state departments and boards. But ultimately the budget is established at the state legislature. The state department, DBED, Department of Economic Development, Business and Tourism, mm-hmm. then has a wide umbrella over many different mechanisms and apparatuses that function around those topics of economic development, business, and tourism.
Okay.
Like HTA is under their umbrella. The Stadium Authority is under their umbrella. Creative Industries Division is under their umbrella. Under Creative Industries, there's also the film commissioner, right? And then the counties have their own film commissioners. Those film offices coordinate with the state film office and then coordinate also with the incoming producers or filmmakers that come through.
Yeah, what are they coordinating? Like what locations we can permit, right?
Permits, the tax incentive application that they make, right? They have to put in certain amounts of receipts and whatnot. It's also like
they vet that. Like in order for you to get this incentive, you're gonna document. You're gonna bring it in through our office, and where the film commissioners are the people looking at that, making sure they're hitting those marks.
Film commissioners are more like the key grip that then disseminate. Like they have the plan and the vision, and they disseminate that to their team. Mm-hmm. Right. That happens on a county level as well. The part that becomes difficult is then you're asking for this tax incentive to be applied to this taxpayer, the production company. Mm-hmm. Now it goes to the Department of Taxation as well, who has a different team that's looking at different things.
Right.
And those two don't always meet eye to eye. They don't always match up. Mm. Because of that, there is sometimes difficulty in a company getting their tax rebate back, or not their rebate, their credits back.
Yeah.
Right. And that's can be okay for a large company, like a large network studio. Mm-hmm. But for smaller companies and independent studios,
that's all the difference.
That's all the difference. Like those 2 months mean either they're above water or they're below.
Yeah.
So I think there are ways, there's so many different facets to the conversation. Like there are folks at the legislature who absolutely do not think that tax money is to be used for giving out for the public good.
Yeah.
There are folks who adamantly want this thing to happen, but no one in the House can tell anyone in the Senate what to do. No one in the Senate can tell anyone in the House what to do. They can barely tell each other what to do within their own chambers, right? But they come to consensus, and they find the middle ground. I think there's been a lot of consideration in both chambers that have benefited us, and we have a lot of allies out there, and there are a few opponents out there that we also have to bring into the fold. I never like to make it an adversarial thing,
right?
Because I think it's just a lack of communication or a miscommunication or a lack of information. Right. And I think if we can just bridge those gaps, we can bring them into the fold too and have a roundtable discussion as opposed to sitting in our separate camps and then,
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of what I kind of really wanted to sit down and talk to you about, is just to kind of put the discussion topics out there, and people can go discuss with their opinions with whoever it is. But who can, if you want to try to support what we're doing, our industry, who do you reach out to?
Who do I reach out to, or who?
Yeah, who are you reaching out to, number one, and who can we reach out to?
Yeah, I would reach out to, me personally, I reach out to entertainment sister unions, right? Other folks that are part of the game, and then other folks that are part of the organized labor movement in general. Hawaii has the highest union density per capita of any state in the U.S. and has for many years.
Nice.
We are, of the entire workforce, there's 24.1% of Hawaii's workforce belongs to a union.
Nice.
And it's huge. Like, we're one of 2 states that still have higher than 20%. It's us in New York. Whereas in some places, like, say Texas, there's like for every one union member that votes in a certain way, 1.3 or 1.4 other people will vote in that same direction.
Right.
In Hawaii, it's more like 1 to 5. For every one person that is a union member that advocates for a thing, they will influence 5 people to move in that same direction. Oh. So if I were someone out in the ether that is listening to this, I would go to capital.hawaii.gov. I would there's a Find Your Legislator tab. Mm-hmm. You put in your address, and it'll show you who your state senator is, who your state representative is, what county council member represents you, and then also your U.S. representative and your U.S. senator, I believe. Don't quote me on that part. But I would reach out to them, and I would look at, I can't harp on it enough. Capital.hawaii.gov is a wealth of resources. But like any toolbox, if you don't open the drawer, you're never going to know what's in there. Yeah. You'll never be able to utilize the tools that are in there. And it is decked out. It's front to back full of resources and tools for us. And one of the things is you can check out the committees that your legislator sits on, right? That if your legislator sits on culture and the arts, right? That's something to think about. And you can see like what bills are referred to which committee, right? Bills are often referred to a fact-finding committee and then the money committee in each chamber. The money committee in the House is the finance committee, and the Senate Ways and Means committee. Each one of those referrals to a committee, there's a round of testimony that's offered. Mm-hmm. You can punch in keywords to look up like film, TV. You can look up school lunches. You can look up any number of things there. And you can track these bills in a section of the website on your account to see when they get referred to another committee. And when they do, submit testimony. So that's what I would do. And then I would also, like, if there are any events that your state legislator, your state senator or rep holds, go to them and talk to them. Be like, I live in the North Shore.
Right.
And not me personally, but like if someone were to say, I live in the North Shore, and while I don't like the traffic that sometimes happens from film and TV sets, I really appreciate that they spent money in my small business.
Right.
You know, and that carries a lot of weight for the legislator that represents you. It carries a lot more weight. I heard it from somebody that was like, you know, sometimes there are people who are really happy that you're not doing anything.
Yeah.
You're sitting right where you are, never say anything.
Makes
in the
their
opposite.
life easy.
Super easy,
Yeah.
right? And then there are other people who are genuinely looking for input and really need like community voices to express themselves.
Or know what's going on and where they can attack.
Because otherwise they're flying blind, right? They're going with their best intentions and their best direction of what they think based on what they've heard, right? So on either camp, it's really important to be active in the legislative cycle, to know who's representing you, know the issues they stand on, look at their ballotpedia.com track record of the things they've supported, look at their page on capital.hawaii.gov.
Yeah.
You'll see the things they've introduced, the things they champion. There are ways, I think, to express your voice and your priorities as an individual citizen, and for us as a hui to express our priorities in a way that is constructive and collaborative and powerful.
Yeah, that's great. Cause like, thank you for those resources, because even me, just, you know, as like a grip, like I want to have my input, but it's like, where do I even start? You know, and for you, you know, telling us exactly like, this is where you can start, this is where you can actually do something. So instead of just talking about it or grumbling about things or giving your opinion all the time, like, this is something you can actually do.
Do it right now.
And if you're not doing that, then all you really trying to stir up is a fight, you know, dissension, you know, separation amongst people. So I think it's important for us, all of us, to kind of move together. Like, instead of, you know, this team is doing this, these people are doing that. In general, in the filmmaking community, it's like we all should be pushing at this together, because I talked about on the other podcast too, it's like, we actually, whether you're doing, you know, high production value, you know, CBS, ABC, Disney type of shows, or if you're doing short films like that you're going to put in HIF or whatever, it all goes both ways. This, like, I've worked on, you know, a lot of high production stuff, and learned a lot from hours and hours of experience on set. If one of my friends are making a HIF film, like, I really can't wait to help them with my skill set. Like, I can't write. I'm not a writer. I'm not, you know, a storyteller like they are. But I can do all this. I can light. I can
contribute.
Right? I can contribute, and you're gonna need that, and they're gonna need you. And guess what? I rather help the person making a HIF short film about something I care about than some other.
Bro, those
thing.
showdowns in
You know what I
Chinatown.
mean?
Showdown in Chinatown days. Oh my God, they were the best. They were absolutely wild and insane, but they were so much fun. There's so much collaborative juice coming out of those things. And then, like, bro, we would work the full week and then take 48 hours over a weekend to film a short film and then show up wrecked to work the following day, you know, but for love of the game. And I think that kind of, I don't think a lot of people understand the deep commitment to this art form, to these crafts, the sense of community that is built here. I think, because how could you, right? If you didn't see behind the curtain, how would you know? Bro. How would you know that the circus is in town and, like, these folks work together really well and they work really hard and dedicate themselves to this for years of their lives? It's
like, no one person can accomplish it. You need a whole team. But yeah, Showdown in Chinatown, bro.
The throwback, the way back.
Tori Tukuafu, the OG camera operator.
Shout out to Tori.
Bro, I miss that guy.
Miss you, Tori.
He was a huge supporter. He put it on, I think, a couple of times. But it was basically this 48-hour film festival contest.
Where you had a line and a prop that you had to use.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, they would all show up. We would all view what everybody put together in 48 hours.
Yeah.
And I would trip. I would be like, damn, this is kind of pretty good. I'm like, when did they have time to do this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And but it goes to show you, like, bro, people are really trying to do this in Hawaii, and like people trying to tell stories. And
there's a vibrant community here of people who love this game, and it is the ultimate team sport.
Totally. And I feel like it's coming up on our time to tell our stories. Like, I mean no disrespect, but like, how many more cowboy stuff can we do? Like, how many more medical stuff we can do? How many more? But does anybody like have ever heard of like the battles that went on in old Hawaii?
Yeah,
like,
probably not really.
Like this, like, you know,
they don't get taught that at their schools. You know,
there's some great stuff there that I think, you know, the world is ready for. Yep. But it all circles back around to us telling our stories from our perspective, and whether that's in camera movement, lighting, you know, like, we got to tell our stories from our perspective. And the only way that we'll get the skills to do that is on working on other projects, learning from the people who did it before us, you know. And so
to rewind it a bit, you know, like, you never going to learn how to ride a bike from watching someone else ride it. You may get some tips on how to hit the Tour de France, but you're not going to learn you learn how to ride a bike by doing it.
You got to get on that thing.
You got to ride, man.
Yeah. And so, you know, our union specifically, we have training that we do within our union. But other than that, how can somebody, say, if they want to join the workforce or the union, how does somebody prepare for that? What do you have on usually your resume, or do you just come and just on the job training usually?
So if it's from early school days, I would say encourage your kids to do arts and crafts. Anything. It could be crayons and Play-Doh. You know, it could be folding paper airplanes. You know, start with anything. And, you know, giving an awareness to kids that, like, this is something that people do. Your favorite show, your favorite cartoon, your favorite whatever, your favorite movie, those are people that do that. Yeah. And once that awareness is offered to them, then in, say, like, elementary school, participate in setting up, you know, encourage your kids to participate in setting up assemblies and doing, like, join the AV department. The AV nerds, I'm telling you, run the world one day, right? And then as they build those skills and, like, gravitate towards one thing or another, then in, like, high school, you start getting into more advanced things, like whatever the news podcast is for the school, or sports broadcasting, or fill in the blank. Theater is a huge one. That's where I learned, right? And then even, like, May Day, building lei and building costumes and, you know, setting people's hair, setting the stage itself, lighting the stage. That then translates into someone that now has 10 years more experience than the next high school graduate.
Right.
Because they started early. Math skills, reading skills, arts and crafts, all day, every day. Those are the things I've used every day of my career.
Yep.
And once that happens, if they go into higher education, then there's points where you can, like, work in the theater. Yeah. You can go and volunteer at stuff. Your friend has some weird YouTube video they want to make on their phone. Go help them out, right?
Yeah.
Start there. I think kids and folks who are new to the game have access to much cooler toys than I did growing up, you know?
Absolutely.
So many crazier things they can just order off Amazon. Video stabilizers for their phones that weren't even a thing, you know? But that's what I'd say for families who want to encourage their kids into this game.
Yeah, even if they're not encouraging into the game, say at any point in time, you're a kid or a person who finds this super interesting. Like, you know, I'm talking like maybe you really enjoyed setting up for assemblies. Maybe you really enjoyed making the costumes or doing hair. How does that translate to a real job, and where are those real jobs?
Right.
And this is kind of like, hey, if you're good in those, like, this is what we're doing every day, getting paid and making something really cool. you know, so maybe that can kind of be awareness too, is like this is the real jobs that translate to those skills and to those passions when you're younger.
And you know, like I was lucky in that I worked behind the scenes and I was in the theater performance program, and then I worked behind the scenes for my on-campus job. And then after college, I just got like jumped into the game.
Why, what school you went?
Chapman. I went to Chapman.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Chapman Theater. Woot woot. But then I went.
I was talking high school.
Oh, I went Kamehameha.
Oh.
That too. Theater as well.
We do all the song contests, don't we?
Yeah, we do. We do song contests. That's right. And that's another thing. Like we'll get into that in a bit. Just like the way that we amplify Native voices through our work and through the dedication to these crafts to make sure that these events are safe. Mm-hmm. But I would say, how do you get into the game here? I would say follow your passion to figure out what you love doing and what you're good at doing. Sometimes those are two different things. And then when you start gravitating towards it, you know, like for someone who's into anime and comic books, you know, Comic-Con becomes a very real source of income, right? Then getting behind the scenes and like being interested in how things are hung in the air, and suddenly you're on the path to being a rigger by noticing the things. Yeah. So find what you gravitate towards first, and then just start looking, right? Like start looking around towards there are live event companies, there are rental houses. You can cut your teeth there. Like a lot of folks in our industry here have cut their teeth and grown significantly because they worked at Hawaii Media Inc.
HMI, right? Baby.
HMI.
I love those guys.
HMI has been a breeding ground for some of the best technicians that we've ever had because they've had hands-on access to the stuff. First, it's hold this thing. Yeah. Right? Now, put this thing down. No, not like that. Yeah. No, not like that. Yes, like this. Yeah. And then it for someone who is curious, right? You have a significantly greater chance at finding success in this industry. For ones who are willing to learn, who are looking for the break fix mentality, that is huge in our industry. Yeah. So the folks who continually ask, but why? Yeah. Like, well, how does that work? Yeah. Well, if it works like this, why does it work like this? What's the point of this? Oh, snap. That's why you do it like that? Yeah. And if you can do it like that, then you could potentially, and that's, I think, the foundation of innovation in our game. Yeah. Right? It's because someone was probably filming a movie on a Navy ship. Yeah. And saw a hydraulic missile loader that had roundy wheels and could crab. They're like, how much weight does that thing hold? Because this camera's heavy as hell. Yeah. Strap a camera to that thing, right? How do you steer this?
We'll call it a dolly.
Call it a dolly. Yeah, it's a dolly.
And we'll never change it for 50 years.
It's the odd part about the grip world, right? Is like there's so many leaps and like advances, leaps and bounds, meteoric rise in the advancement of technology in camera and in lighting. And grips still use sandbags. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Hey, you know what is the biggest advancement is the C-47. Now we got those fancy half clips.
The .5s, baby.
If you think about it, that's kind of one of the pieces
took you from the Stone Age to the Bronze Age, right?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, I think.
But to go back, the ways that you would find success in this industry, where do the jobs exist? A lot of the jobs, whether they're union or not, are looking for people who are, if they are inexperienced, are willing to ask the question. Mm-hmm. There's nothing worse than someone pretending like they know how to do something, being hired to do it, and then finding out in the middle of the shit that you don't know what you're doing at all.
That's so awesome you said that. I was like privileged that you asked me to be a part of we had a grip electric training for our union. It was super awesome. Mm-hmm. Good people, and they all came in with really good attitudes, positive attitudes. And, you know, with the technical side of the training, what everything is, what they do, a lot of the things that I found myself saying was more attitude. You know, like we look at someone as a great worker if you have like anything else, right? It's like attitude is the biggest thing. But safety is also the other biggest thing. Right. And if you're coming into work and you're saying, oh, I know how to do this, I can do them, no worry. And then something dangerous happens, like just tell us you didn't know, and we can talk about it.
Situational awareness.
I can tell you how to do it.
Exactly. Exactly. And situational awareness, a willingness to participate. Like, who was it? Lee Kaneakua. Shout out to Lee. He said something in one of my first training courses with him. It was like, if you're going to sit back and watch me do this, my dog can do a better job at this. He didn't say it to me specifically, but he said it to somebody. Yeah. And that was like, duly noted, man. So, like, jump in and be a part of the game. And I think it's cart before the horse to say, where are the jobs?
Yeah.
There's foundational skill sets that need to be developed over the course of a wide range of experiences. Mm-hmm. Like running around with your friend and their iPhone camera stabilizer and, like, doing a skateboard video, right? Or being a reggae house DJ at parties for a little bit, gaining the life experience. Those technical skill sets lend themselves very well to our world.
100%.
But then the mindset is something that almost cannot be trained. It's something that one needs to personally cultivate within themselves.
Yes.
Situational awareness, timeliness.
Yeah.
Because, like, if you're not 10 minutes early, you late. Right.
Yeah.
A willingness to deal with varied and sometimes chaotic personalities.
Yeah.
And big egos.
Oh, yes.
Right? And having a good attitude. Like, if you can do those 4 things, you can, 1, work anywhere, and 2, you will excel in this game. Yeah. But if someone shows up without those things, they are already at a disadvantage to everyone who is hungry to be a part of this. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. My girlfriend is like, am I supposed to read your mind? It's like, I guess, but that's like, I'm always reading my key grips mind.
Yeah.
I'm always reading.
Yeah. It's hard to turn off.
It's kind of like,
it's hard to turn off, to flip the switch back.
And then, like, even at home, like, being raised by a grip, it's like, I don't know, the way I change the trash bag in my trash can is like,
I can only
probably
imagine,
totally different from how normal people do.
For sure. It's the attention.
You take out the trash, you put it back in. This is how it goes. You put it here for the next person.
Release the air here and make sure there's another spare on the side, because there's that kind of there's anticipation of the next thing.
Yeah.
Because I think also we form these tight bonds not only because we spend so much time together, but if we're being honest, we trauma bond a little bit, because it's so wild.
Yes.
To, like,
stand in the rain on power
for like 16 hours. You know, like, at one point we'd like power down 2 smokes, shotgun a monster, jump into the van, and then run in the jungle for hours on end through the night, right? Yes. And they're like, you tend to go feral and then go home and have to be around, like, normal human beings and stuff. Like, I would wolf down my food when I was on set. I'd go home, and on the weekend, I would, like, just inhale my breakfast.
Yeah.
And my wife would be like, do you have to get back to the truck? Sorry, baby. I mean, I didn't. She's like, was it at least tasty?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, it was. I'm sorry. I won't do it again.
Oh, I still make call sheets for the weekend.
Oh, like, my God.
It's mental.
Yeah.
And everyone around me should know the call sheet that I've made mentally. But nobody does. But I'm still running as we got to leave this to make this. We got to make our schedule. We got to hit our mark. So
if we're going to do this, then it means that we have to be prepped with this, and the car needs to be loaded with that, and that has to happen an hour before this. And so I'm going to wake up at 4:00 in the morning, exactly. Which drives my wife nuts, right? Because she's not, like, it's not fair to dump that on my family, right? But but like. That is an important aspect of this game, is that when we've gained so much momentum at staying at this high, intense pace throughout the entirety of this show, that then in re-entry to the real world, the spin, like, suddenly stops, and we, like, the exit velocity from that storm, some people burn up, you know, and it's sad and it's tragic and it's hard to watch, but it happens.
Yeah.
And it's really important that folks that they build a strong foundation and a base for themselves, so that they can touch grass and slow down. Yeah. Because for the longest time after a gig, like, my mind would be flying. Yeah.
And I mean, I think that culture in our industry is changing. Like, it's not like how it used to be. And I think, you know, that's what the unions are created for, right? Yeah. It was like these productions coming in, they have a budget, they have so much that they got to get done, and really they could care less about your sleep. They could care less about your conditions. And so the union has to come in and say, hey, listen, like, we're going to need a break. We're going to need food.
People need rest. People need to eat.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't call us back after 5 hours of being off and work again. Like, we need at least 10 hours. What is it, 9 now?
9 hours, yeah.
9. We fought for those 9.
Yeah.
But so
10 for some.
I mean, that's the importance of being in a union, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think is the most important part about joining a union in this culture?
I think the whole reason that people are in a union, especially in, like, Hawaii has a very unique place in labor history, that the plantations that were here, in every sense of the word, abused and belittled and were demeaning to all of their workers. And the reason why we have our ethnic diversity here is because they would import new workers, as one racial group would say, no more. And once the Hawaiians said that, they're like, fine, we'll bring in Chinese workers.
Right.
And when the Chinese workers said no more, they're like, fine, we'll bring in Puerto Rican workers. And down the line, right?
Don't forget the Filipinos, bro.
The Filipino workers, when they showed up, by the, like, ILU was in the organizing drive, and there was a point where they had union cards by the time they got off the boat. Because an ILU, now ILW, organizer was there on the boat and talked to everybody on the trip over here.
Nice.
So, like, unions were crafted. The whole point of it is that any individual worker, if you work at a fast food joint, like a national chain restaurant, you can be fired on the spot for nothing, right? There are certain safety conditions that are sort of guidelines and suggestions, but if nobody reports it, nothing's going to change. And if you report it, there's a problem, right? You could be fired for that.
Right.
Your wage is not changing. Like, this is how much you get paid. These are the terms of your employment, and that's it, right? And the whole point of being in a union is for us to get together and say, wait a minute, I'm worth more than that.
Yeah.
And so are they, right? And I deserve to have medical coverage for my family, and so do they. We all do. We all do this same thing. So now all of a sudden, instead of just corporate organizations dictating to the workers what the terms of employment will be, labor organizations then get together and get to combat that, where folks are trying to roll back protections for workers because they can make more money from it. Labor organizations are in place to protect workers across the board, whether you belong to our union or whether you belong to a union or not. A rising tide lifts all ships. And it's labor unions that fought for a bunch of things we take for granted today, like the weekend, the idea of a 40-hour work week,
Right.
child labor laws, overtime, right? All of these things were paid for in blood, along with the safety regulations. Some OSHA or some, like, safety instructor had said, he was talking about how a company, like, you cannot store hazardous materials in crew quarters. And somebody laughed, and he put down the pen and he turned around and he said, all your safety regulations are written in blood. Every single one. Because if they could get away with it, they would. But people started dying, right? Like the radium girls. The radium girls used to, when radium was discovered as this beautiful glow-in-the-dark, iridescent, illuminated, like, numbers on a clock, right? On your watch or on a big clock.
Yeah.
And they would say, instruct their workers, who were mostly women, lick the tip of your brush and then paint it, because it'll give you a fine tip on your brush. It'll make the lines and the edges so much nicer. Only to find out that it's incredibly toxic.
Oh, gosh.
And most of those women passed away slowly and terribly over time. And these are the types of things that large corporations will do to any worker, right? Because it will make them more money. And until someone says something and causes a big enough stink about it, none of those things change. But labor organizations have been at the forefront of fighting for safer workplaces, better conditions, benefits, time off, and better wages.
What is some example that you would give or things you might see on a union film shoot, production shoot, union thing, and a non-union production? What have you kind of seen in your experience?
Oh man, yeah.
Like if I was working, what can I experience if I worked for a union certified production, or
if you're working on a union show under a union agreement for a signatory employer,
right?
Like they've signed the contract, the agreement, I would expect to see an hourly wage that's set, defined terms for when overtime kicks in, defined rest periods, meal breaks, safety officers that are around, sometimes set medics, right?
Right.
And then on non-union film shows, there have been on Facebook and other social media sites, I've seen filmmakers advertise, if you pay us $100 a day, we will give you the honor of working on our show.
Right.
Or we'll pay you an exposure, right?
Or they're like, we'll pay you $200 a day, and like the day is like 20 hours.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
What I mean? So
that you will work until you drop.
Right.
Right. I've seen, the horrors. How do you go into it? There are no safeguards for you as a worker. Mm-hmm. Like you do as you're told. It's all buddy and friendly before the thing starts, and as soon as it starts, they treat you like dirt. Right.
But is it hard for, say, some local guy wants to make a short film, and he tries to pull together his buddies or whoever he can, because his resources are very minimal. But he wants to make this short film talking about where he grew up or the stories that he has. Does that local producer need to hire union, or should they reach out to you and say, hey bro, I have like $5,000, do I have to hire union people? Or
there are ultra low budget contracts, but do you have to? No. And I think it really depends on the scale that you're going for, right? And if it's just a short film and whatnot, then to save money, a lot of forethought and planning needs to go into place. That assets and money will buy you a lot of leeway to just be like, I feel like doing it like this today, right? Which you can if you can bury all of your problems in cash, right? That can be done. That's also a foolish way of doing it and a waste of money. But for someone that's doing a local vid, I grew up around here, it takes a lot of forethought of planning out the story, of writing out like the shot list, right? And storyboarding it for yourself and really truly down to the minute detail, envisioning how this is going to look and finding out like how to make it work. And I think that part of the creative process is very important for anyone that's in the game, but especially for someone who's trying to create content.
I guess my question is more like, what is, if you have a production, you're producing something, what is the benefit of making it, or what is the decision process in going, hey, I want to hire union, because they seem to be more skilled, they're safer to work with, they know what they're doing, but I can't afford it, so I'm gonna have to go non-union, only for the simple fact, like I'm taking the risk with the skill level and all that, but this is all I can afford. How does that producer make that kind of decision? Or
really it is based on the budget, right? Okay. Like the agreement level, there's low budget, there's ultra low budgets, and then at some point it's more of like a community project or a student film. I think one of the assets I would reach out to is Olelo. I think one of the like reaching out to filmmakers or film technicians or artists within your community and asking them just for help and advice on something. But there's where the forethought and the planning come into play. If it's just, I want to film this area today, right? But you don't have any permits and you're just kind of running, gunning, and going rogue, right? That can become very complex very fast if you haven't taken into account what the traffic looks like for the day, or what the weather's going to look like, or where the nearest hospital is, or how much fuel you have, or how you're going to rig your camera, or how much footage you can capture on your camera, what resolution your camera is, like all of those many things. How does someone who has a passion project, put it on. It's all through the planning. It's all through the forethought. Agenda versus strategy, right? Agenda are the things that we want to accomplish. We're very passionate about. It's near and dear to our hearts. Strategy is that very clinical, dispassionate. How are we going to do this? If we can't do it like this, cut off the leg, right? It's very straightforward. And I think differentiating the two in the planning process is very important.
Right.
I have this thing I want to create. I have this much money to do it. It will mean becoming very creative with your assets, right? Where you can allocate money to. Can you pay your buddy $500 for today to be the A&R guy? Can you hire your friend for $300 to be the cameraman? Or can you just do that, right? Do you really need an overhead light, right? Mm-hmm. Do you need studio lighting? Do you need sound equipment? You know, like all of these things play a factor into how to accomplish this. But I think that is the greatest opportunity to find like your creativity in this game is when you have limited assets, how to accomplish this task in the most creative way possible. I think that starts the process, but how do you do it?
But what I guess my thing is like, when do you like, or us as a union, if this ever happens, I don't know, like, do you go knocking on doors to productions in town, right? Like, is there anything that raises a red flag to you for you to go, hey, you know what is this production I'm hearing about that are maybe, I don't know, treating people bad, or you know, does that ever happen where you have to go and seek out a production and say? It will
normally be if one of our members is doing somebody a solid and they're working on something for them and they call me like, "Ayo, I don't want to make a big deal out of this, but," and then everything after the "but" is the real meat and potatoes of the conversation, and that's when it's like, this thing is horrible. There's live electricity on the ground. I don't know what to do about this. Yeah. I'm like, are you working under the contract? And they're like, no, I'm doing my friend a solid. And I'm like, tell that idiot to turn off the live wire, right? Yeah. And then, is there a point where we reach out to production companies when they are non-union? Not so much. Okay. It's more when folks come to us. And especially in my role as president, my role is more to advocate for our industry, for our community, for our members, and for people who work just in general. Right. That's my job. In doing so, I will address something if it needs being addressed, and it normally happens because someone calls me up and goes, "Hey, I need help," you know. But rarely is it the like we'll go out and knock on doors unless it's an organizing effort. Right. If we are trying to create an agreement or establish an agreement with an employer, right, it is usually, I would say 99.9% of the time, companies that have significant assets, significantly larger than $5,000. Okay. We're not going to go like picket somebody's passion project that they got $2,000 invested in. Yeah. You know? That's not right.
And that's kind of what I was getting at is like, you know, people, I don't know what is their perspective of unions and non-union workers. Like sometimes I feel like people have the perspective like, oh, if we bring in union guys, like they're gonna want to have this much money. They're gonna want to take this many breaks. They're gonna want to, you know what I mean? They're gonna want to have every safety precaution.
Stupid union breaks. Yeah, what do you mean? Get back to work.
You know what I mean? And I gotta be honest with you. Sometimes I'm in the middle of it because like I'm a union guy, but I love helping people on their passion projects, right? And so, you know, and some people got more budgets than others, and some budgets kind of creep up there, where you're kind of like, okay, at this point you should kind of maybe consider signing some contracts and making it legit.
If you get up to the like 100,000 realm, that's around like the ultra low budget.
Oh, okay,
like that's the move, right?
Okay.
Even if you get up to like the 50, like you're into short film territory, right? You should call Gerard Elmore. Like he's the dude for short films here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the guy's amazing. Marisha's husband.
Yeah, she was just talking about it.
Gerard
and so
so dope.
What does that phone call do for a producer? Or
that gets them into like a talent pool that I think is untapped of writers, storytellers, of folks that have access to gear and equipment and have like quick turnarounds on production schedules and stuff. that really fosters local native talent. I mean, Gerard's the illest. Shout out Gerard. Yeah, we wouldn't go. When do we go knocking on doors? Is when either we receive word from a worker or workers that their employer, the company that has been employing them, not like just some dude or somebody that's making a down home passion project $5,000. When we get reports of, hey, we're doing work that's like the work that you do in whatever sector, right? Live events, trade show, film and TV. We're doing this, but we're working next to one of your guys, and one of your workers is making like 3 times what I'm making, and I'm not.
Yeah.
And then they're also like, we're not getting a lot of breaks. Like, there's safety concerns, whatever. Once we hear that, then that kickstarts a whole process of like, all right, let's investigate to see what are the company's public financial disclosures.
Right.
Who are their stakeholders in this company?
Yeah.
Where are their assets? Right. Then we start looking at like, what does this production? And then it's like an info and fact finding mission, right?
Yeah. Because it's kind of, you're just like, okay, they got the money to do it. They just not doing it because they care more about their profits as opposed to the conditions of the people making the,
As a famous big budget director once said when told that my stunt people they're dropping like flies. So the director yells out, then bring me more flies, right? That's the mode that a lot of, like it's all buddy, and it's all like, we're all in this together until it's not. And I think the union is here to represent those that work, because I think the distinction is the separation has never been left versus right and has always been up versus down. There are those of us that work and those of us that don't. And those of us who don't work, there are those people that don't work that tell those of us who work to fight each other. Yeah. And so long as we're doing this, we will never advance our cause.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I think you talked about a lot of great resources that if you're a filmmaker or if you have an interest in our industry, our union, IATSE 665, we have a website, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
IATSE665.org.
You can go on there and see information if you're interested in being a referral. Are we taking referrals at the moment?
Yep. You can fill out a referral information sheet. So it's basically giving us like putting your name and information in our database so that we can reach out to you in case there are things, or if you get hired onto a show, that we can help out. I remember Donovan Ahuna, rest his soul, one of the first things he said to me when I got my card was, getting your union card doesn't guarantee you can work. But when you work, we're going to be there to help.
Right on.
And that's the whole thing, is that if we don't know who you are and you're working on the thing and then somewhere your paperwork gets messed up or your pay gets messed up, we don't know anything about you, we're already behind the 8 ball and like behind in the game at least 2 weeks. Yeah. But if we are upfront and we know each other, we can build that relationship, then we can provide greater advocacy to support you in your career and in this craft and in this art form.
Uncle Donovan got me my card too. So shout out to him. Rest in peace. Mm-hmm. Man, it's been a pleasure talking with you. I really do appreciate you taking your time out to talk about these topics.
So much fun.
I hope it's not the last time we have a conversation.
I'm around.
We can revisit this and kind of talk about topics that arise. But appreciate you, Tui, man.
Hey, man, I'm not hard to find. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm honored.
I appreciate you, man. Love you, brother.
Love you too, bro.